Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Episode 17 now of Around the Bend podcast. I have the privilege of having Nikolay Voronchikhin here from Cisco. If you want to introduce yourself, Nikolay, and let everyone know what you're about, that'd be awesome.
Thank you, Blake. I'm very excited to be here on your podcast here today. And let me tell you a little bit about my story. So I've been at Cisco of about 9 years now. Most
Oh,
of my work has been done in the Chief Data Analytics Office, working on the data platform team. So supporting all of the different initiatives here at Cisco, supporting all of the business units at Cisco, as the Chief Data Analytics Office is a function of IT at Cisco. And in the past or in the last 5 months, I've joined the Cisco IT design organization, which rolls up all the way to Fletcher Perveen, who is supporting all of who wants to change the way our employees work, right? So we're supporting different functions like the employee experience, right? How we navigate the different websites, how do people work from home now that most people are working from home, right? We want to make sure that all of their devices and applications are set up correctly, right? That their network is up to date and it can work and function well, like with the Cisco VPN network, so that they can navigate every single website to do their job at Cisco.
And are you so just so people have a little bit more background on you too? You're like a senior analytics engineer, and really, what insights are you drawing and kind of delivering to your because also too, I think it's good for people that generally listen. A lot of times people will refer to their own internal people they help as their clients too. So I was gonna say, who are
Mhm.
your internal clients, and what do they kind of gain from the insights that you bring?
So one of the areas I work on is the surveys. So we have this Voice of the Employee program initiative, which started about a year back. We're trying to basically gauge uh, how people feel, right? How do they actually feel about all of the different devices that they're using, all the different websites that they're navigating, right? What else would they want uh, to be a part of their job, right? And so the kind of analytics that we need to perform is on this kind of like sentiment analysis, right? On all of the things that they're talking to us about, right? And about every quarter, we have this IT satisfaction survey that we send out to employees. Never the same employees; it's always a new set, and we want to gauge from every different business unit how they feel about whenever they're working at Cisco, right? And every single quarter, our goal is to improve on that aspect, right? From any of these sort of areas, especially the search functionality, right? Whenever like a new hire onboards to Cisco, right? If our search functionality can get them, instead of taking them 7 steps to find the solution to what they're looking for, you take a 1 or 2 steps, right? That will, help, you know, alleviate their pain of like
Mhm.
working at Cisco, because they can, get to whatever they're looking for much faster than it was a decade before, when we didn't have any of these awesome user experiences, awesome systems that we have in place today and in the future.
Well, I think that's kind of an important point. I used to work, I mean, I do work in a big company now, but I used to work in an even bigger company, Verizon. And what can kind of happen is the upper echelons of the company become really out of touch with what's going on with the majority of their workforce. It's kind of like a military, it's like an army, it's so many people,
Hmm.
so many things going on that if you don't really have a sense of that morale, where things are, people are going to leave, especially too when I feel like when the executive boards get really out of touch, they don't understand why they have such high attrition rates. They don't understand why they have such high turnover, because they don't really understand what's going on with the most important thing they are, in charge of, which is their employees.
That's right. So we're like Cisco, as every company, we're investing, right, in employees, right? We're making sure that we're hiring the right employees, But at the same time, we want to make sure they stay here at Cisco, right, for a very long time. And in order for them to do that, they have to feel like they're at home, right? And now that we're in a new era, right, where our home is our office, right, we need to, make it feel very, very much like that, right? Like you are at the office, but you don't have to be necessarily physically in a particular work office, right? And
Mhm.
so all of these different things we care about and we're trying to get sentiment on, right? This is part of that program that we're experiencing here today, right? And uh, I think Cisco recently put out this hybrid worker bundle, right? That Fletcher always talks about in a lot of his interviews, right? So this is definitely this is how you get onboarded to Cisco, right? Uh, you get this package, and actually, it's not one package; it's like 3 or 4 different packages of many different tools and devices, and it looks beautiful. It's like a product that you enjoy seeing from other vendors in the industry, right? So
Mhm.
that kind of experience, like within the first week of working at Cisco, right? You don't see in many different companies today, right? And that is because of this new initiative to improve the design, right, and the experience of working at Cisco, right? And so these are one of the different aspects to make sure that people are, satisfied. And over every quarter or every year, we want to make sure more and more people are satisfied to work at Cisco, right? And they can only say good things about their experience of working in Cisco. At least that part we can improve upon.
Mhm. I mean, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Do you feel that you're kind of on the front lines of like seeing what people really want and don't want?
Yeah, as a senior analytics engineer now in this team, my goal is to bring all that data into the cloud data warehouse that Cisco CDO supports, and I have access to all of the information now, right? So I understand the different things that they care about, right? And then kind of like as an analytics engineer, my goal is to bring that data in and transform it in a business ready format. And when I say business ready format, in this case, we want our executive leadership team to see like a view, right? A visualization that explains everything that they should know, right? To make a final decision on
Mhm.
a particular website or a particular product,
Mhm.
or in the case of hybrid worker bundle, which tools should be supported and that people could click on the website to select, right? And how a particular website should look like, right? Based on the actual data, right, that people have provided to us. This is not fake data. This is real data that the employees have given to us, right?
Mhm.
So they can make their final judgment not based on a hunch, but based on real data.
Mhm. And how many, just so people understand the scope, like how many employees are you polling? Because some people might think like, hey, why do you really need to do that? You could just do like a survey monkey kind of thing. But I think when you understand the scope of Cisco, like how many employees are you supporting?
Yeah, on a Cisco is that more than like tens of thousands of employees, right? Every single year, whether they're there now or in the future or in the past, it's always been in those tens of thousands of people. So if you think about the scope, this is just one aspect. The other aspect is the job role, right? Are you a sales engineer? Are you a sales executive, right? Are you just a leader or manager, VP? Or are you like a analytics engineer, data engineer, software engineer? Those three, those are just some of the examples, right? And each of these people, right, uh, they need to be surveyed on because their satisfaction is different, right, depending on your job role and the kind of education you've had, also how many years of experience you've had in the industry, how many years have you worked at Cisco cumulatively and since your new hire date. All those things matter because at the end of the day, we want to make sure we provide the experience based on your job role as well, right? So dynamically based on your job role, we provide you the set of tools that you need, right? And this the particular device that you want, right? Based on your job role, right? Some, like especially for our sales team, right? They use their mobile device a lot more often than our engineers who mostly use the laptop to go to work, right? To build the code and whatnot, right? So our mobile apps for Cisco are also like improving over time. Like in the last 5 months, Cisco delivered the directory app for Cisco employees, right, on mobile, right, which was never done before. And this is very much useful for if you need to make a quick call to another colleague, or if people want to get in touch with you, right, from outside Cisco, they can also do that as well on the mobile app, right? So all these things are a piece of the puzzle to make sure that the employees are satisfied of all job roles.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's kind of an interesting sort of combo. So, like, are those tools that you're giving the employees, are those like homegrown Cisco tools, or are those like a combo of like third party and homegrown tools? And then it varies, like you said, a salesperson wants a phone, and there's probably some mobile app that has to go on the phone. The engineer wants one thing, the sales engineer wants another. Do those analytics just like kind of like automatically be like, okay, then they're getting based on their responses, they're getting XYZ package?
That's right. And we also care about what we call task friction, which is how easy it is to use this tool today, right? And so we're trying to improve the way we complete a task, right? We want to make sure that the task is easy to complete and as quickly as possible to complete, right? In the IT department, we're supporting the internal assets, right? So all of the different websites that we go on, all of the different devices that we're using, all the tools that you mentioned, right, and applications. And yes, this includes both homegrown Cisco tools on premise, as well as all of the third party applications that Cisco has purchased a contract with, right? And over time, right, our goal is to figure out which tools are actually making the employees productive, right? And which tools we should sunset, right? Eventually, right? Down the line. At Cisco, decisions happen later, right? So it takes maybe sometimes many fiscal years to sunset a tool, but eventually it will happen for business purposes, for business reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, which is what used to happen in the past. But now we also have to care about the sentiment, right? Like, let's say that 10,000 was still want to use this tool, right? So yes, the decision is kind of made that this particular tool is going to be sunset, but all 10,000 of us or more still want it, then they're going to reconsider it now, right? Well, in
Mm-hmm.
the past, it was strictly based on a business decision on the money that it will cost us, right? And so if
Mm-hmm.
there's a tool out there that's cheaper, they're going to go for it if it makes you similarly productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the kind of decisions that the executive team will be making, right? Based on the data that we're feeding them. So we're becoming much more data driven, right? And sentiment is definitely a part of that, a piece of that puzzle.
I mean, that's a lot more forward thinking. I can remember back at my days at Verizon, like they'd be using tools and software packages that were just like really, really, really actually made your job way harder. They were not frictionless. They were high friction in a bad way. You'd burn yourself trying to get things done. And
Hmm.
they didn't really matter, really. I think we complained many times, and I'm sure many people did. And it was kind of like, eh, that was the general response you got. So it is good to kind of see that change. I would say here at Robert Half, like I would say for a big company, it feels pretty seamless. Like, I came in, I had all my computer, everything set up. You just turn it on, log in, and I'm like, off to the races kind of thing. And
Hmm.
I think it's hard for people to understand sometimes, like the delivery of that just for an internal employee takes a lot of steps, especially in a large company. Like, just think about getting that laptop, like just following that object around. Like, it was probably most likely in most cases, maybe not at Cisco, it was a used laptop, right? Somebody else used that, so they had to, reset it, re-image it, get all the apps set up the right way, get the login set up, centrally get it
Mhm.
somewhere, clean it, get it rewrapped somewhere, get it sent out to the employee, and then even just on the software piece, that's like an extra, like, 3 to 4 steps right there, making sure everything's configured correctly. And then
That's right.
you on the back end are basically knowing, like, okay, you need this software package, this device. It is kind of an interesting, like, delivery model, and sometimes people are like, oh, that's kind of boring, this internal IT stuff, but that's really, it's really what makes things function. It's not super sexy, but it's like the base of everything, and I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah, this because this is how business runs, right? At the end of the day, right? If you don't have all the tools, all the software, all the packages that you need, you're not going to be a successful organization, right? Or a successful business unit, right? So this is why we're gathering it now, right? We're trying to figure out, does this software is this software going somewhere, right? And we're also like talking to all these software vendors, right? The executive team or the architects in that organization, they're talking to these software vendors, trying to figure out their roadmap, right? Doing QBRs with them every quarter or every year to try to figure out, are they actually gonna improve their product, right? Or should we start looking at some other product, right? And Cisco is one of those companies that is doing POCs, right, with
Hmm.
a lot of companies, right? We have, I would say, a higher luxury to do that than, let's say, smaller companies or mid-sized companies. And so, yeah, if a particular vendor is not improving on their product, we have to start looking at something else, right? That's how markets shift, right? Uh,
Mhm.
and it's all about what's available in the market, right? And how they can help Cisco, you know, gain more revenue, right? Gain more customers, uh, stuff like that, right? And so all these things matter at the end of the day.
I would say, like, yeah, it's not like a silver bullet to fix a lot of problems, but there's all these like tiny factors that cumulatively, if you're at least putting positive energy towards them, you'll usually over time get a good result. And anyone that's worked in enterprise, like S&P 500 company, it's hard to get things done because just think about, you're just dealing with so many moving pieces to get one thing done. But if you ignore them, which I've seen, unfortunately, with my own experience or clients, is like, you start ignoring a lot of little things, they add up to big problems. So you can't
That's
let
right.
all these little things go. So you doing the analytics piece, you supporting the IT departments, which supports the employees, it's like it's adding up generally to a good direction of higher employee satisfaction. Ease, I would say it makes the IT department's job easier, for their configurations. And then that also adds to employee satisfaction. And then an increased employee satisfaction and not wasting time on like some login issue and some dumb laptop issue when they're starting, they're off to the races, and then increases efficiency, makes everyone happy.
Yeah, it's all about a reduction of like how easy it is to solve something, right? I just want to go on a website, right, and find out some information about how do you get like a Windows VM, right, on my Mac, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was like, let's say I looked at it 9 years ago, right? The websites back then were not as clear cut, right? At
Mm-hmm.
this point, the search, we call it one search at Cisco, right? It's much more clear. As soon as you type it in, uh, you get a set of results now, right? Which are much more closer to what we're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, right, AI is coming through, right? So there's different ways of solving that problem even faster, right, or even better than before, right? So Cisco is also in that business, right, to try to see, is AI going to help us in to solve any of these problems, right, for our customers also, right?
Mm-hmm.
So internally, yeah, Cisco is also probably working on uh, chatbots, right, or a much more intelligent way of searching, right? So as we kind of like look into the future, you always have to think future, right? uh, what are other companies also doing, right? And so that's why like Cisco employees, they go to conferences also, right? They're trying to figure out what are other companies working on to improve their business, including their IT departments, right? And I think that that's how it should be, and it works for us.
And I think that last point you made was pretty important, is that mm, you want to see what everyone else is doing and not kind of fall behind that curve. And not only not fall behind the curve, like, there's nothing wrong with a big company being ahead of the curve on a lot of these different tools and things like that. And the companies that are constantly adopting them, implementing them, and evaluating the ones that are necessary, you don't really hear about them, because they're just chugging along. They're doing everything they're supposed to. They're making money, making clients happy. The ones that aren't are
Mhm.
usually like, you hear of the Southwest, you hear of the, just trying to think off the top of my head. There was that energy company like 2 years ago, that oil company. It's like, when you let a lot of things slide, they usually accumulate into big issues. And that's usually self imposed. So it is kind of good to hear like a big company kind of out there on the cutting edge. And even when I go to conferences, because I have to go meet clients, engage, I try and pass on those nuggets of information that I see. Actually, like you and I, we met at the Modern Data Stack conference. And from all the things I learned there, I actually went and had a couple meetings with our product owners of our data science teams. And I was like, hey, I see what's kind of going on in the market, the modern data stack, all these different things kind of in the analytics space. And it kind of helped them do some more research and kind of direct some of their focus for some of the product, because they put it towards, I don't know if you call it a council or a commission, but a review board for every tool that they
Mhm.
want to implement. And like for us, they're looking to implement like an outbound marketing tool for sales, but that opens up a lot of security
Mhm.
problems. You have third party vendors. It opens up the outlook, and so then they have to take time and evaluate it. But it's better that they're at least looking at what's out there rather than just being like, oh, you know what, it's fine how it is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is not a good mentality to have.
That's right. Yeah. It that's what I'm thinking about, right? In the analytics space, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But let's say there was a pipeline that was working for a really long time, right? And the way you were doing business, the way you were doing software engineering, the way you were doing data science or data analytics, right? But you were using previous tools, right, or on-prem tools, right? You're kind of like falling behind in this current journey. They call it the modern data stack or the postmodern data stack at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, right, you have to think about how best to leverage today's tools, right, in the market, right? And in Cisco's case, we are doing POCs, and then we're also getting licenses for those products. Why? It means that the POCs went well, right? And they solved a particular problem, right? And down the line, let's say it will save a lot of money or save a lot of time, right? Or make our sales team much more productive because they can see the data closer to near real time than waiting, let's say, a day or two for the same data set, right? They can make their decisions much faster, right? They can get leads, right? They can get opportunities, right? The
Mm-hmm.
different lines of business, right? They can figure out which customer to needs to renew next, right? Instead of trying to guess their way out, right? And so the only way to do that is if you're using tools that can get you to that near real time access to that data, right? I think access is also key, right? Because especially in a company like Cisco, everything is restricted, right, to a certain person or certain team or
Mm-hmm.
organization, right? And however, other business units will find this information useful, right? And that will be good for the overall Cisco, right? And so when we're talking about different business units, we feel like Cisco sometimes operates as their own startups. So do you have any questions on that?
Um, no, I mean, I think that is kind of an interesting point. I think some of the better companies, even if they're super large, I don't know if a good analogy is like military, but it's like you have whoever you report into, then your sort of like group, and your group within a bandwidth is allowed to just make the decisions that affect you. And
Mhm.
I've worked in the top down approach. Doesn't work very well, especially when you're working with intelligent people. You just kind of get attrition of the good people. If you take smart people and you let them do what they want to do, kind of like in your situation, is kind of interesting because you're working in a group that's basically like you have the funding of a large organization, and you're working on these really hard, interesting problems, and they're sort of like getting out of the way and letting you fix a lot of them. Or maybe they don't even know there's a problem, so they're letting you build these tools that um, kind of give that future insight.
Yeah. So it's based on my experience in the chief data analytics office team, right? Most people in the IT organization have not had that similar experience. So
Mm-hmm.
my goal was to try to like implement and try to tell them that this is how it works, right? This is how it's done in other organizations, right? It's all about proving your business value, right? And what kind of impact it had previously, right? If it had a huge impact, people will think differently, right, about what it is I'm trying to implement, right? You always have to think about what value does this tool or process uh, present, right, to the business, right? And you can kind of envision, right, that this tool will also help this organization, right, or this particular business problem, right? So if you got to think, if you think about it like from that perspective, right, uh you always have to like figure it out, right? Should you keep the current process? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Or can we improve it further, right? uh Kind of thing, especially for new use cases. Old use cases might be working fine as is, but new use cases, right? These are game changing things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, and I'm also happy to report I work cross functionally across different IT orgs here, right? My goal is to get data or access or some kind of help from other organizations. And uh, I am, I'm really excited to get my hands dirty as one of the senior leaders, I would say, in this engineering space, and kind of provide my value, right, and start to like mentor people and teach whatever I've learned in the past, and try to get more questions, right? Because the more questions that people come up with, the more problems we can solve together.
I think that's a super important point. I mean, I've done that here, just sort of like you start asking basic questions. And even if you're not, I think this is an important lesson for people that work in good organizations. Even if your organization's super big, if you just start asking questions like, hey, why doesn't this thing work like this? Why doesn't this work like that? And you ask your director, and they're like, I don't know, talk to this person. And I sort of went on this journey internally where I was like asking this person. This person sent me to another person. This person sent me to another person. And then I ended
Mhm.
up, I was trying to figure out, we have an AI tool called AI Recommended Talent that's supposed to help with our recruiting process, speed it up. The algorithms are supposed to locate the right people very quickly. And sometimes on certain skill sets, it would like hallucinate. It would like send you like a really crazy, not connected kind of person. And of course, a recruiter or myself would be like, yeah, that doesn't work. But you start asking those deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper questions. And then you're like, huh, now I understand what this problem is. And I understand how they're trying to solve it. But it can help you learn a lot, and then sometimes it can help other people think about stuff more, be like, you know what, when your work becomes full circle, right? Because I was talking with our data
Mhm.
science team, they're just doing their job every day, right? They're up in our corporate office in San Ramon. They're not used to like a salesperson coming and be like, hey, so how does this work? And then they're like, oh, well, I guess, that actually raises some good points, and it does X, Y, and Z, and it was good for both sides, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
because
like
go for it.
a natural curiosity, right? Of your it comes down to job role too, right? You're working on a particular task, right, and you love to do it, right, but you're not 100% every single day, tying it back to the business value, right? What was the downstream, right, that brought that data here? The upstream that brought that data here. What is the downstream business application or report or website or web application or mobile application that's going to be taking the data that you're building, the AI model that you're building, right? And, changing the world, if you will, right? For whatever business problem you're trying to solve, right? So if you're stuck in that process, right, you will always be using the same tools over time as well, right? You're not going to be challenging yourself and your organization, right? And
Mm.
so yeah, I think it's very important to look at the whole end-to-end process, right? And that is what I'm here to do in this organization, right? Look at it from start to finish. And yes, my goal is to deliver the middle piece, right? But
Mhm.
what was the start and what is the end goal here, right? And the end goal might change every single day, right? Based on the stakeholder intake requests, right? There's new and new requests coming in every week, right? For a particular reason, right? And so uh, you have to understand the entire process of how everything works, right? And that is one of my things that I always put on my biography, is that I want to know how things work, right? There's a lot of stuff I don't know, but my goal is to improve upon that every single week or month. And right, as I try to like bring more and more value to Cisco, right, I,
Mhm.
try and learn more and more every day about how things work end to end.
Mhm.
What was the actual upstream application that brought that data in, and who are the people feeding that information in? Were they processes, tools, or actual people? And then what are we trying to do? What is the dashboard saying? What are the decisions that the leaders have made in the past, for example, right? And what are the decisions that they need to make in the future, right?
Mm. I think that's really important. I mean, do you have any, I guess, closing thoughts or maybe like things you learned on this journey you wish you'd known earlier on as an analytics engineer or data engineer that you'd be like, oh, that, like a universal theme, something that you learned?
It's all about who you know, right? So if you're just starting out as a data engineer or data analyst, your goal is, I would say, is to try to figure out who knows the things that you want to know, right?
Mhm.
So for me at this point, I want to know the start and the finish. So I need to know the business side of things. So I need to know business stakeholders, right? Because these people, they know the data well, right? Engineers, they know how to code the data, right? And they know computer science principles, and theoretically they know the data, but they don't know what the business stakeholders know, right? So I would say one of the pieces of advice is definitely to figure out who are the business stakeholders and try to start asking them questions, right? Setting up one-on-ones with them, or getting mentorship advice, possibly sponsorship, even from the business people, right? These people will kind of take you to the next level, because you will know more about the business than maybe even your own whole organization, right?
Mhm.
So when you think about working cross functionally, especially in a company like Cisco, where you have many different business units and tens of thousands of employees,
Mhm.
it will be huge, right? For you to understand that. That's just one piece that
No,
I
I
would
think
give today.
I think that's really, really important advice, and I think even the same in sales, and I'm sure in many other paths in life, is that people are apprehensive, especially anyone that's a little bit younger. You maybe 21, 22, coming out of college. Like, don't be scared to reach out for help. Not only for help, but really just be open to being mentored. My dad actually, um, he told me something interesting because he's done like, several businesses, some startups, things like that. Is that he finds a lot of young people are hesitant to be mentored in many cases because they're like, oh, I can do it myself. I'm I'm the shit pretty much. And it's hard because usually, I'm closer to 30 now. I'm like, well, there's some times where there was some people that offered to give me that helping hand that I should have listened to. That I kind of resonate with that advice. Like, one, be open to mentorship, but actively seeking it out is really how you get ahead.
Yeah, that's right. And definitely, I would take your game to the next level, whether you want to be a leader, right, or just a team lead, or take your game all the way to the leadership or executive team, right? Sweet. Or if you want to become a founder, all these things are important, especially like mentors or people that can help you, right? You, the whole point is to know something that you don't know yet, right? And then eventually, you will also become a mentor to people, right? Whether you're actively seeking out that opportunity to be a mentor or someone's asking for you to be a mentor, take that opportunity, right? Make add time, right, to your schedule, to your weekly schedule or monthly schedule to help people, right? That will definitely set you apart and people will see you as someone to go to 100%.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think those are some really good thoughts, and I think you gave a really good scope of kind of your work and where maybe organizations have opportunities to improve in their analytics. You know, are you okay with, if anybody has questions about more about kind of what you do or your background, they can feel free to ping you directly on LinkedIn. I'll post this up with you attached in there. Okay, Nikolai?
Definitely, Blake. I'm always open to talking to people from the industry or in the business side of things, right? We're all in this together. We're all working on solving different problems in different ways based on our job role now and also in the future, right? We're all changing because, right, as we know, the only constant is change, right?
Mhm.
We're always, trying to improve ourselves or change ourselves. So I'm definitely open to helping people out as well as getting more and more mentors in the future.
Hmm. Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for taking the time out to talk, and you have a great day. Okay, Nikolai?
Thank you for having me, Blake. Have a great day.